Am I the idiot for telling my boyfriend he is financially cut off from me and I will provide zero help if he buys this? So this situation involves me, female 28, and boyfriend, male 27. We have been together for about 2 years and some change. We live together and split all the main bills, but the rest of our paychecks we keep separate and spend how we wish. Typically this works fine, but despite him earning the same, sometimes more, than me, he is not great at budgeting. He gets takeout almost every day, buys coffee out every single day, sends his god-awful abusive mom money whenever she asks, etc. And I've had to help him out with money multiple times, but the real issue started when he brought up wanting to buy a pug puppy. Now, I work in veterinary medicine, lead VT at my clinic, and frequently see firsthand the suffering these dogs go through due to bad breeding, and even just their breed's standard anatomy. Plus, they are prone to so many chronic expensive health issues. And I've found over the years that no matter what the other person says, if you work in my field and they get a pet, a lot of the harder care aspects, like medical, will fall on you. And honestly, I find buying a pug at all to be unethical and something I am not okay with. I certainly wouldn't be willing to bring them into my clinic and shoulder the responsibility, which I know would happen. I love my BF, but this is a guy who thought neutering a dog involved removing their penis and even says he knows nothing about animals until I met you. Who is going to have to manage the situation when this dog has chronic allergic dermatitis/otitis or IVDD or one of the other million issues they typically end up having? Me. I already know it. I explained all this to him, and he got quite upset with me for completely shutting down what he wants. I told him a small mid dog isn't out of the question, just not a pug or other brachycephalic dog and not a puppy. They are far too much of a time and effort commitment than either of us can provide and wouldn't be good for anyone. I don't like to admit that I pulled the "this is literally my career field and I know what I'm talking about" when he kept repeating. Well, you don't know that. Because yeah, I kinda do. I am also not proud of this. But I told him if he did get the pug puppy, I would never help him out again with money and I would give him zero help with the puppy, including bringing them into my clinic as an employee-affiliated pet for at-cost care, cheaper but by no means free, or medications. He was pretty shocked when I said this and left our apartment to go cool off. I guess he told our mutual friend because they told me via text I was being a witch about the whole thing and must hate animals. All my coworkers agree with me, but I know they are obviously biased. Am I the idiot? Edit to add, this mutual friend was his best friend before we started dating and they became my friend also. Or at least I thought they were. While what they said is shitty and not okay, I have a hard time believing my BF actually called me that to him. Even when we argue, not often, but happens, he has never used any language like that or anything even remotely disrespectful. I would not tolerate that. He is immature at times, but never like that. Another edit to address some common things in the comments. My clinic is actually part of a shelter. I talked at length with him about how we could foster one of the dogs from work who was compatible with us and our lifestyle, size, energy, age, cat-friendly, etc., before adopting, and he was not happy with this. He also was not interested in mixes with pug who didn't have the extremely short face due to not looking like a pug anymore. That's when I got a little more forceful with my ultimatum. If we got a dog together, then I would be happy to take on the lion's share of things like medical care because this is a pet we got together and just makes sense. I got my cat before dating him, so I'm my cat, and have never asked him to shoulder any aspect of her care other than feeding her if I was going to be home late from work, or something similar. We have never had an issue like this before, so that's one reason I'm a bit lost on if I was really in the wrong or not. I appreciate all the comments a lot. I'll be in the comments, but I think this addressed the most common inquiries now, for a few comments before an update. Not the idiot. If you won't consider your professional opinion, backed up by even casual research, then perhaps drawing this boundary will make him realize this is not a capricious decision on your part. Comment 2, not the idiot. I have been in a fair share of relationship fights over animals, and it's not always easy, but it's a path many cross. It's one thing if he already owned the pup before getting together, but getting an animal while in a relationship has to be a decision made by both parties. Now for the update. So I didn't dump him yet, after we had a long talk. Could we still break up? If I don't see a lasting change from him, yes, but we aren't there yet, and him admitting he fricked up is a big part of that. And no, a pug puppy is not happening. Turns out the dog he had as a child, D, was a pug, and was devastated when D died. He never really liked talking about D, and I never pried. He cried a lot once he started talking about D, thought D was always very healthy, So when I was going on about the health issues with pugs, he assumed that it was overblown and I was just being overly cautious. Since Dee was healthy, and he wanted a dog that looked like him, brought on after Mom had found his old collar, I got a gut feeling. So I kept trying to, as kindly as possible, ask questions about Dee, how often they took him to the vet, if he had any photos, etc. Turns out he couldn't remember a single time this dog went to a vet. If a vet never diagnoses an issue, it doesn't exist, right? And once he found some old photos, I pointed out the dog clearly had ocular issues, likely untreated KCS with ulceration, and eventually went blind, sat in a way that indicated hip issues, even remembered a time that the dog collapsed after playing in the yard, but he got up again a while later, so his mom said he was fine. Once I spelled all this out to him, he looked like someone had slapped him across the face and just said he was so sorry. He was just like all those awful owners I tell him about, etc. He was a kid. He shouldn't have been expected to manage that dog's veterinary care. But now that he's an adult, he needs to look at the situation logically, and I was extremely hurt he gave zero shits about my professional opinion. I get that enough from owners at work, don't need it from my BF. He apologized and said he doesn't think he is ready for a dog after all, and when the time comes, he's happy with looking at dogs from the shelter I work at. So, the issue with his friend. I did something I had never done before, asked to see his phone, their messages. A friend got a very one-sided version of events, thinking I unfairly vetoed him, but never used any derogatory language. Showed him what this friend sent me and he was pretty taken aback, told me he would deal with it. If he doesn't, this relationship cannot continue and money. That was hard. Tried to be gentle, but it feeds into a deeper issue with his mom, not a new issue, and I told him enough is enough and I can't keep supplementing his income because he gives so much to her. Something happens and suddenly has a big medical bill. Car randomly breaks down? Obviously I would help him. Money for psycho mom? No, done. Her or me. He chose me. Going no or low contact with her, and absolutely no money, even if she does her manipulative BS. We'll see if he holds to that. If he doesn't, he knows I'm done. Comment 1. You're the idiot. It's not your place to dictate what kind of pet your boyfriend can have based on your professional opinion. While you may have concerns about the breed, it's ultimately his decision to make. Threatening to cut him off financially and refusing to help with the puppy is manipulative and controlling. Respect his autonomy and find a compromise that works for both of you. Comment 2. Sometimes a dog is just a dog. And sometimes it's not. Sounds like a super productive conversation and a mature response to conflict, even if he is pretty naive about dogs. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for how I responded to a friend at my friend's birthday dinner? Hello, I am part of a friend group of 5 girls, all 20 to 22 years old. We live in Europe and this post is translated to English. My friend A had her birthday dinner with the group yesterday. A's friend, B, is 22 and a stay-at-home mom. I am a university student. Yesterday, when B arrived late, she looked at me and said, "You look like shit." Not very nice but true, so fair enough because I really looked like poop. Why? I have a lot of courses that I have to attend and I cannot delay them. The exams are coming. I am studying for more than 90 hours per week without counting the lectures. I am also working, although only 3 hours a week, with preparing at home for at least 2 more hours. I am stressed and I fear that I cannot pass these exams. I kind of developed insomnia due to the stress, so I have not slept for the last 3 to 4 days, and you can see it in my face. I am starting to think that if I die right now, at least I don't have to do the exams, but I think I will feel better again after the exams. I didn't even want to go to dinner because I just have so much to do, but I care about us, so I went. I said, "Yeah, I am very tired from studying." She laughed and said her usual mantra, "You don't know what tired is. I have 3 kids." Talk again about it when you also have 3 kids. You could have at least put on some makeup. Now, I don't really know what happened to me because we are all used to this kind of comments from her, but I snapped. I told her exactly how tired I am. I told her that she isn't the only one tired and that her gatekeeping being tired is annoying and also shows what a selfish person she is, and that being empathetic for one time would not kill her. I followed saying that I am without doubt more tired than her, since all her kids are out of the house for 10 hours a day. Good daycare since her husband has a good job, and all she has to do is cleaning and not even cooking because her husband does this. Moreover, she has her mother-in-law taking care of night duties, because she and hubby are too tired. She told us all of this herself, while I have to clean and cook and do it all by myself. I think at the end I was kind of screaming because when I looked around, people were staring at us. She asked A if she had anything to say, and after A didn't say anything, she told me I was a childish witch and to go to hell. Then she left. I think I was just too shocked to react. After that I started crying and I immediately apologized to A for ruining her birthday dinner. A was kind and told me not to worry about it and that she would have a chat with B later. The other girls messaged me after we left saying that I had to apologize to B, that I was insensitive to her struggles and that it was not okay to bring her home situation to the discussion. I wrote this during another sleepless night, and am only posting this now because I still don't know if I was in the right for responding like that. I mean, I still ruined A's birthday dinner, and I could have just ignored her comment. Now, for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. B can dish it out but can't take it back. Had she kept her rude comments to herself like she should have, she wouldn't have been embarrassed like she was. I would not apologize to her at all. I would offer another very genuine apology to A for this taking place on her birthday though. Was it the best way to handle it? No. But B deserved what she got. Comment 2, not the idiot. Having once had a schedule like yours, I understand how you could snap. Find some new friends, sweetie. Now for the update. Regarding my friend A, I called her and apologized again for yelling and ruining her dinner party. She said that I did not ruin anything and that she should have put a stop to B's actions long ago. She also told me that I was paranoid as always and that I did not yell but just raised my voice a bit, and that it was normal that the table next to us seemed invested in our discussion. I insisted on taking her out to dinner, just the two of us after my exams, and we went and had a great time. We are both in no contact with B and low contact with the other girls. Regarding my university problems, I contacted my teacher. He was as useful as always and told me that I should continue to do my work, meaning all the work, and that he would ask his superior for help. I did not hear back from him before my presentations. At that point I was angry and bitter about all the work I had to do, so I said, screw them, and signed everything with my name only and presented it alone with my colleagues standing next to me completely silent. I repeated several times that I did everything alone and told my teacher that I sent him an email with proof of this, email, screenshots, etc. He said he had not seen the mail yet. He asked the others if it was true that I did everything alone, and 3 of them actually tried to lie after I told the teacher I had proof. But the last one, I will call him Boy, said the truth, and apologized to both me and the teacher. Boy took me out to lunch after the presentation, apologized again and explained that he was like stuck in a mental coma after a traumatic event that occurred to him, and that I snapped him right out of it when I told the teacher about all the work I had to do alone. His words. He told me that he was thinking about quitting his studies because he was so behind. But I managed to dissuade him, and we now regularly meet up to study together. We have become good friends, and he will be back on path with his studies in about a year hopefully. I passed all my exams, but my colleagues failed all of them. The 3 other colleagues are currently facing some troubles with the university for fraud/cheating, since they continue to claim that they worked on the exams and will not back down with these statements. My teacher is confident that they will be expelled over their stubbornness. Boy is okay, as he admitted everything and just failed the exams. I can sleep again and I am happy. This is all. Thank you all again. Comment 1. This is a great update, and I'm really proud of you for standing up for yourself at school and for learning the value of prioritizing friends who reciprocate care. You handled all of this really well, and I really hope that your workload becomes more reasonable as you continue to push back on those who may try to shirk their responsibilities. Comment 2. First, dinner story is awesome. Some parents need reminding that we all go through times of no sleep. Second, good on you for standing up for yourself. That would have been intense to stand there with everyone lying at first and to fight. Am I the idiot for wearing noise-canceling headphones when our baby is crying? Me, male 33, and my wife, female 30, have a little baby, female 0.25, who for the most part is a chill and happy little thing who makes our world shine. But as with any baby, she cries, and sometimes a lot. I'm diagnosed autistic and as a result have some pretty severe sensory issues, particularly around sound, and particularly when I'm tired. I have noise-canceling headphones which are a godsend, so I started wearing them when I found her crying too overwhelming, particularly when I get up at night with her. To clarify, I can still hear her crying and I don't put them on so I can ignore her crying. Quite the opposite, I wear them so I can hold her without feeling overwhelmed. Also, it's just her being a baby, not a medical thing. Most of the time she's a joy. I love our 2 a.m. feeds when it feels like nobody else in the world is awake except us. enjoying the stillness and solitude. I love her so much. My wife hates it and has asked me to stop. She said that being a parent involves having to cope with the bad stuff. It's what we signed up for and that it's important not to block out her crying so I can feel what our daughter is feeling. She also said that it probably scares our daughter to see her dad with stuff on his head when she's at her most distressed. What she said makes a lot of sense, so I stopped wearing them and handled the resulting meltdowns afterwards. But when I was talking to a friend, he said that's an unreasonable demand. I'm not a bad dad and my needs with my disability matter too. Now for a few comments before the update. I think you found a wonderful solution and have a sweet attitude with your baby and dealing with the crying in the middle of the night. Why not be able to wear the headphones? There's nothing wrong with that. It's really weird to say that the baby will have problems with you having those on your head when she's distressed. The baby will not know either way. I think your wife is being unreasonable here. If you are less frazzled, it will make you a better partner to your wife also. She can wear them too if she wants to not have the full impact of the sound. Heck, I wish I thought of that when my kids were little. Comment 2, not the idiot. There's absolutely nothing wrong with wearing them. You can still hear them crying. People don't understand how overwhelming it can be. Now for the update. Thank you to everyone who replied, especially those who took it as advice on coping with crying babies. I hope it brings you some much needed relief. You're doing a brilliant job, and please remember to look after yourself. The first thing I have to address is my wife is not ableist, far from it. She's been an absolute rock for me through everything. Some examples are she suggested I get diagnosed before we were even dating, encourages me to stim and indulge my special interests. Despite wanting a big wedding, she insisted we have a private official ceremony and a party after our honeymoon with scheduled rest breaks for me. She always checks in on me in all social situations, and she even bought me the expensive noise-canceling headphones. I don't deserve her, but I'm grateful for her every single day. She's the best part of me. Perhaps because she's been nothing but supportive, I automatically believed she was right about me caring for our daughter. But in this particular case, she was in the wrong and has said so. She wasn't best pleased I'd asked strangers. I have her consent for this update, but understood why I did and had been thinking it over herself after seeing what it was doing to me. Turns out I wasn't anywhere near as good at hiding my meltdowns as I thought I was. After a lot of talking, she said she felt angry and frustrated that, in her view, I was breezing through parenthood while she feels like she's drowning. What really hit me is when she said she feels like a bad mom and a failure. My amazing wife, the best mother I could ever imagine for our daughter, the woman with seemingly boundless love and care, felt like she's failing as a mother. I wish she could see herself the way I see her just once. Part of me feels like I've failed her for not noticing how she was feeling. I think I was so caught up in my own joy that I missed her suffering. Obviously, we're not in a good place right now, but we're going to talk to the health visitor about getting her the help she needs and what's available so she can get better, but it sounds like PPD from what we've read. In the meantime, I'm going to work from home 2 to 3 days a week once my manager has sorted the insurance out so she's not alone as much. The plan was for me to take the last 20 weeks of parental leave anyway. I'm going to book a session with my therapist, and the headphones are back. For both of us. She tried them a few days ago and said how much calmer and in control she felt, and how our daughter settled so much quicker. She's probably reading this and finding out that I've ordered her a pair and they'll be here Friday. If you are reading this, I love you. Comment 1. It's utterly ridiculous that you would prioritize your own comfort and sensory issues over attending to your crying baby. Parenthood is about being present and nurturing, not tuning out with noise-canceling headphones. Your wife is right to be upset, and it's shocking that anyone would defend your selfish behavior. Your child deserves better. Grow up and take responsibility for your role as a parent. Comment 2. Wow, the headphones sound brilliant, to be used while holding a crying baby. Clever and well done. To ignore a crying baby would be awful, but you aren't. You are managing your stress quite cleverly. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for not moving out of my apartment so my brother can have it? I, 23, female, have an older brother, 32. I moved out of my parents' house earlier than him and found a small place for myself that is really close to my job. The place is not the biggest. It's a 1-bedroom apartment, but it is enough for one person and rent is very cheap, so I'm extremely happy with it. I put a lot of work into it and made sure it's my little happy space. Recently my brother started staying over now and then. I don't have a problem with that. He works the night shift and my place is also closer to his job than my parents' house. The problem began when he started bringing more and more of his stuff to my place. He brought his PS4, started gaming in my living room, and is overall just being a terribly inconsiderate guest and treats me like our mom. I brought this up with my parents, and my dad suggested that I should let my brother live there and get myself a new apartment. He said I should look for a bigger place because my brother makes less money, and he could afford my place, and I could find something better. But I don't want a bigger apartment. I have no plans to have a family or partner where I would need anything more than one bedroom. And I put so much work into personalizing my apartment that this feels so unfair. My parents said I'd be an idiot for both, kicking my brother out now for staying over and not giving him the place. Is that true? Edit with some additional info. My brother does not pay rent to me. He used to stay here for only a couple of days, but it's been turning into weeks. Edit 2. I did contact my landlord as of today. She hasn't responded yet, but she's nice, so I hope she'll understand my situation. Also, additional info, I didn't know my parents or my dad would react like this. I thought he'd help me talk to him. We don't have a bad relationship. I am trying to figure out why he thinks my brother should have my apartment too, but my dad hasn't been responsive since that conversation. Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. Please do not let your family bully you into giving up the thing you worked hard for. Your brother is a grown-ass man, 32 years old, and can definitely find another place if he needs to and can't be a considerate guest. That is your space, and you need to put your foot down / have a strong backbone, because clearly your parents are going to side with him once you make it clear you aren't giving him the place. Comment 2. I can't decide if your brother has always been your parents' favorite, or if they are just so desperate to get a 32-year-old man out of their house that they are willing to screw you over in the process. Either way. Not the idiot, and get that parasite out of your happy place ASAP. Now for the update. I attempted to talk to my father again, but at this point I am assuming that a lot of the comments were right about them just wanting me to deal with my brother in their place. I took time off my work schedule to pack his poop together, and waited for him to crash here after work again, since I still needed the key back. Looking back, probably not the best move, but I was stressed and tired. It was an awful fight, but it did end with him eventually leaving my apartment and returning my keys. The reason I didn't get the locks changed is because my landlord reminded me that this could be very expensive, and she wouldn't cover the cost for me. It's been several days and my brother has not contacted me since, nor attempted to enter my apartment. I am still considering changing the locks and might do so soon with my landlord's permission and covering the cost myself. But it seems I have my space back. The thing that really bothers me is how my relationship with my parents suddenly suffered so much from this. My initial reaction when I asked them to help me throw out my brother, and my dad responding with the apartment switch, was that they couldn't be serious. Apparently they were. My mom did talk to me this week and said since I am on good terms with my landlord I could figure something out. It's completely ridiculous and almost comically evil at this point. I told her that that's not how renting a space works. I don't even know if this is pure entitlement or ego, doesn't matter though. I decided to lower contact with them over this, until they find out what they did wrong. Regardless if they do or don't, my family are not the main characters of my life and I am done with being a doormat to them. It took some encouragement to stand up for myself, and I want to thank everyone who gave it to me. Comment 1. You handled this just right. I would at least find out what changing the lock or asterisk rekeying it would cost. You can usually just change part of it, and it's fairly easy to do it yourself. It's a valuable life skill. I took my own lock from home to home for a few years. Comment 2. Thank God you stood your ground. I was rooting for you. I'm happy that you are feeling better now, and I hope you will continue to thrive. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for not inviting my mom to my baby shower? So background: I, female 21, and 7 months pregnant. I got pregnant after my antipsychotics canceled out my birth control. It took months of therapy for me to realize the blame isn't on my son, and I'm somewhat happier. My son is also my parents' first grandchild. My baby shower is in April, just 3 weeks before my due date. My aunt is planning it, and is making the invitations. So far it's all 3 of my aunts, siblings, grandparents, and any cousin who can make it, along with any of my friends who want to come. I asked my ex-stepmom, Dad left her for my mom 5 years ago, if she wanted to come. This woman helped my grandparents raise me and treated me like her own. I love her. She said yes, BTW. My mom, on the other hand, before she came back 5 years ago, I hadn't seen her for nearly 10 years. So I decided not to have her or my dad there because I want that day to be about my son and I without the drama. Well, my dad found out and thinks it's shitty of you to leave out your own mother when it's her first grandchild. I replied with, If y'all were actually there to raise me, I'd reconsider inviting you. But since you decided to ignore your 4 children, I'ma guess you do the same to your grandson. They haven't spoken to me since. What makes me wonder if am I the idiot is that my little sister, 15, has taken their side. I love my sister, and so her bashing me hurts. Everyone else is on my side, and so I brought it to Reddit to ask for unbiased opinions. Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. She wasn't there when you needed her. Even if she was, the invitation is totally in your hands. You're not obligated to invite anyone. Comment 2, not the idiot. Actions have consequences. If they want to be a part of your life and your child's life, they should take the L now, apologize, and work to be better. Not bash you for not inviting them when they haven't been there for you. Now for the update. First, my baby's shower went off without a hitch. My ex-stepmother ended up backing out at the last second due to her own personal problems at the time, and she convinced me to invite my parents. For the most part they behaved. Don't know if they were completely sober at the time, but my aunt and brother kept an eye on them. Second, my son was born May 16th at 9 pounds 15 ounces and 21 inches long. He's such a healthy, beautiful baby, I couldn't be prouder. For those who had a concern about my mental health, while I still struggle, I've been taking my medication, continuing therapy, and leaning on family. My mom still hasn't met her grandson. I have a strict rule stating no drugs, and you have to be completely sober around my son. They thought I was joking till I blocked them. My dad is currently 6 months sober. Mom is leaving for a sober house today. I'm proud of the first step. Lastly, I want to thank everyone in the last thread. Your energy and thoughts carried with me throughout the party, and it ended up being amazing. Comment 1. This is a great update, and congratulations on the birth of your son. Having read your original post, I do have to wonder if your parents had something to do with your ex-stepmom backing out at the last second and convincing you to invite them instead, but it sounds like it worked out regardless. Comment 2. Congratulations. I just celebrated my first child's first birthday recently, and I also have mental health issues, so I totally get that feeling of pride and abundance of love, gratitude. I'm truly so happy for you. Shout out to your aunt and brother for protecting you. Am I the idiot for disinviting my sick grandmother from my wedding? I imagine I'll likely be verbally eviscerated by the internet masses, but I do have some explanation. My grandmother is my only living grandparent, and she's my hero. When I was a kid, she beat stage 4 lung cancer. And when I had my own, less severe, diagnosis of cancer, she was there for even more than my parents. I hope people believe me when I say, this decision to exclude her from my wedding is not one made lightly. However, I genuinely think it to be for the best. My fiancé and I are getting married in about 8 months, and have been engaged for close to 3 years. We hadn't intended for such a long engagement, but it's where the dice fell. Initially, when planning the wedding, I absolutely wanted my grandmother there and sent her an invite. But about a year ago, she had a massive stroke. AITA, to make this absolutely clear, everything was planned and booked before she had the stroke. She's 90 years old, and the family was kind of astonished she even made it. However, she's been in really bad shape since then. On her good days, she still needs a walker to get around, though oftentimes requires a wheelchair. Unfortunately, our wedding takes place in an old historical location that is not wheelchair friendly. The ceremony space is quite a walk across a field from the reception area. All in all, not very suitable for my grandmother in her current state. I tried to see if we could move the venue, but the wedding was already paid off and the contract states we can't get a refund if we choose to cancel. So moving locations, we'd be out $20,000. We're paying for the wedding ourselves and scraping together every dime we had to pay for it, so this isn't a hit we can financially bear. It broke my heart immensely coming to the realization my grandmother couldn't be there, especially worrying if she tried to push herself it could harm her health further, and she refuses to accept it. She insists she'll make it there with her walker, but she can't even get through a grocery store trip, let alone an all-day event. I suggested we have someone in front for the ceremony video call her, or have us get married at a courthouse beforehand so she could be there for the actual marriage and still use the wedding as more of a celebration party. Hell, I would have been willing to get married in the damn parking lot. However, she's the type of stubborn and headstrong person to refuse to accept her limitations. Was practically offended I would entertain the idea of ruining my own wedding or suggest she is less than capable of being there in person, and is now very upset with me now that I've said if she refuses all of my compromises then it may be for the best she not attend. Family members are equally angry with me for crushing her hopes to see me get married and have been giving me loads of poop, even though they're well aware of her condition and agree it would be virtually impossible to have her be there. The only one on my side is my fiancé, which has me wondering if I really am the idiot for not letting her try to attend despite knowing it likely won't end well. Am I the idiot? ETA. I'll answer some frequently asked questions that I've seen so far. She does have a part-time caregiver come by her house a couple days a week to bring groceries and take her to appointments and stuff like that. However, she's kind of a small lady herself and isn't even available the day of the wedding. We've looked into hiring/renting assistance of any kind, but we've put almost all our money towards the venue, which my parents insisted on for a centralized location. They've been taking control of the wedding and I don't have the best relationship with them. But that's more than I can get into with the character limit, and it was one of the most affordable. No one in the family has yet to volunteer to help either physically the day of or financially, so we're pretty much on our own. My main concern comes from her potentially pushing herself too hard trying to get around, which has happened after the stroke and put her health at further risk because she's tried to continue living as she did before the stroke and has been hospitalized for it. Now for a few comments before the update. You're the idiot. This is dark as frick. She's an adult. Why are you not letting her make her own choices? Disinviting someone is a huge deal and is usually reserved for when someone does something particularly egregious. Comment 2. No idiots here. Have you asked the staff at your venue for ideas? They may have solved this problem before. You said that the ceremony is across a field from the reception. Maybe you could borrow a golf cart and have someone drive her. TBH, your setup doesn't sound very friendly to a lot of people. I can't imagine people in high heels, for example, wanting to walk across a field, especially if it's quite a walk. Now for the update. Hi, I wanted to give an update to my previous post. There were a lot of repeat questions since some things I couldn't explain fully due to the character limit, so hopefully I can provide some clarification. I was concerned and initially made the decision to uninvite her because she was insistent on living life just as she did before her stroke, and didn't even want a part-time caregiver until an incident at the grocery store that ended with her hospitalized. I didn't want her to be in a similar situation just for me. If she got hurt or worse as a result of her overexerting herself at my wedding, I would never forgive myself. I thought I was doing the right thing for her sake, but a lot of the comments gave me some much-needed perspective. A handful of people were convinced I was embarrassed by my grandmother's health issues, worried she would ruin the wedding, or hoped my grandmother would pass away. As my grandmother is fond of saying, even Evel Knievel couldn't make that leap. I will admit part of why I came to the decision was the result of frustration and lack of any sort of help from family. Not just for the wedding, but it feels like they've given up on her altogether. I was at my wit's end with them, didn't know what else to do, got massively stressed and overwhelmed. It was taking more of a toll than I realized. I'll likely have a serious talk with certain family members later on. We did look into hiring/renting assistance of any kind, but we've put almost all our money towards the venue, which was chosen by my dad and stepmom. They paid the down payment on our home and used that to steer the wedding in a direction they wanted, so they heavily influenced a lot of decisions. At the time it would have worked fine since everything was booked and paid before my grandmother had the stroke. She's my mom's, who isn't in the picture, mother and was never close with my dad, so my parents aren't willing to provide financial help to get her some assistance. No one from her side wants to help either, so we're on our own. As for the main update, we found a way for my grandmother to safely attend the wedding. I stated in some comments my grandmother was very active in her community, even leading right up to the stroke. One of her favorite things was reading to kids at a nearby elementary school, and I learned she'd become good friends with one of the custodians who would help her navigate the building and escort her around, a really nice guy in his 40s. I contacted him and explained the situation, and he said he would love to be her dedicated help for the day of the wedding. When he said that, the relief and excitement I felt was indescribable. Of course, I went to my grandmother and begged forgiveness, and explained the plan for the day. She was happy with the arrangement, and said while she understood I had good intentions, if I try any nonsense like that again, she'd drop dead out of spite. Thank you all for your help and judgment. Comment 1. That made me cry. Especially at the end what your grandma said, because that sounded exactly like something my mother would say. She sounds like a special lady. Comment 2. Oh, I'm so glad. My elderly grandma is also stubborn to a fault and mobility challenged, so I feel your pain. I hope everything works out. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for not giving my boss my first class seat? Yesterday, my boss and I were flying home from a conference. We were on the same flight, but our original seats were not next to each other. I'm a frequent traveler on this airline and use their credit card, so I often get free upgrades to first class. I got upgraded on this flight and my boss did not. After the flight, when we were collecting our bags, she said she wanted to talk to me about my lack of respect for protocol. She thinks that because the company paid for my original ticket, and she is more senior than me, I should have given her the first class seat. I think this is absolutely insane. While the company paid for my seat, it's my own personal credit card spending and frequent travel that earned me the upgraded seat. Is this some sort of corporate standard I'm not aware of? Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. If you want to go forward, you can always email HR and ask, X happened while on this trip and manager Y advised that I should have done Z. Can you point me to where I can review the protocols so I know going forward? It documents the incident without being accusatory and lets you be able to cite chapter and verse if there's a next time. Comment 2. Not the idiot, this was your upgrade, not a company upgrade. I'd keep an eye on this boss from here and document anything in case of retaliation. Now, for the update. Thanks to the many of you kind Redditors who made me realize 1. I was not the idiot in this situation, and 2. I was in a very toxic work situation. I took the advice many of you gave me and clarified the policy with HR. The company, of course, did not have this policy. I also took your advice to get out of that job quickly and am happy to say I'm starting a new job in 3 weeks. I know the person who will be my supervisor in my new job and she is a very kind, normal person. Pretty nervous to give my notice to the toxic boss on Monday. But oh well, if she's nasty then my 2 weeks notice will just become an immediate resignation. We live in a one-party consent for recording state and plan to record the phone conversation to protect myself. Thanks to all of you for giving me the push to move on. Comment 1. Congrats on the new gig. And when you meet with her, if she asks why you're leaving, just tell her it's a general lack of respect for protocol. Around the office, example. Like treating employees with a modicum of respect. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for forcing my daughter to share a birthday celebration with her twin brother? I have 2 kids, Paige, female 14, and Dylan 14M. As twins most years they've wanted to have a joint birthday celebration, but there have been a couple of years where they've decided to have separate parties with different friend groups or at different locations. They tell me a few weeks before their birthday in May which thing they want to do that year. So this year Paige told me that she and Dylan had decided they wanted to have their own parties. And she and her friends had already picked a whole theme and the activities that they wanted to do. I approved Paige's plan, and then a day or so later I asked Dylan what he wanted to do for his birthday party. At this point I learned that Dylan and Paige had not mutually decided that they were having separate celebrations this year, and me asking Dylan about it was the first he was hearing that he was expected to have his own party. His feelings were very hurt that Paige had cut him out without so much as talking to him about it. So I spoke with Paige and she admitted that she and her friends had decided on their own to exclude Dylan because they felt that a boy would wreck the activities they had planned. I told Paige that it wasn't okay for her to treat her brother that way and that the party I'd originally agreed to was now cancelled, and that I expected her and Dylan to plan a joint birthday celebration with activities that all of their friends could enjoy. Dylan is much happier with this arrangement, but Paige is angry and keeps saying that I ruined her party. I'm worried that I might have made a misstep because normally I try very hard to treat my kids as individuals and not just as a pair of twins. And I'm worried that forcing Paige to share her birthday celebration with Dylan might send the wrong message on that front. So am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. You're the idiot, I think. Having a mutual party should only happen if both kids want to do it. I can understand telling Paige that it was rude of her to not talk to her brother and give him a heads up that she wanted her own party, and asking her to apologize, but forcing her to have a joint party is going too far. Comment 2. You're the idiot. The girl planned a party for herself and her friends. The boy failed to do so. Now the girl is forced to put together another party to accommodate the boy. And this is where girls learn that the world, even their mom, expects them to carry the emotional labor. Now for the update. I've had several DMs ask how the situation turned out, and if I apologized to Paige, so I figured I'd just make an update. So I talked with both Paige and Dylan over the weekend and told them that I wouldn't make them share their birthday party. I told Paige I realized that forcing her to share a birthday party with Dylan was an unfair punishment, because I knew it was more important to treat her like an individual and not like one half of a matching set, and I apologized for forgetting that and told her I wouldn't let it happen again. Paige asked if that meant that she could still have the birthday party that she and her friends had planned. I told her that I wasn't sure because I still wasn't happy with her for lying to me in the first place. Paige said that she was more upset about having to tell her friends that her party was cancelled than about having to share a party with Dylan, and that she didn't really get why I was apologizing for that instead. I asked Paige what she thought a more appropriate consequence for lying was instead of having her party cancelled, and she suggested getting grounded, so that's what we're going with. Lastly, I told Paige that since I know she and Dylan are getting older now, I'll just assume going forward that they want to have separate parties every year. Paige said that she only did this year because her friends decided they didn't want any boys. I told her that was fine and I guessed we'd just talk about it again next year. And then I told Dylan that I was letting Paige have her all-girls party with her friends, and that I realized I shouldn't have used sharing a birthday party with him as a punishment because that wasn't fair to either one of them. Dylan said it was okay and that if he was having a solo party after all, he knew what he wanted to do for it. I also told Dylan that since he and Paige are getting older now, I'd start assuming that they want separate parties unless they tell me otherwise. Dylan said he guessed that made sense. So that's pretty much it. Dylan and Paige are each having their own party. And at some point they talked it out between themselves as far as Dylan's feelings being hurt that Paige hadn't talked to him about what she wanted to do this year. I wasn't involved in the conversation, but they've been friends again since it happened. Comment 1. I am glad it worked out, but I think you need to think about why she lied. Does she feel that you always favor Dylan?